Hello and welcome back to this channel. My name is Muhammad, and today we are talking about a castle known as Harlech Castle. This no Harlech Castle in Harlech, Gwynedd, Wales is a Grade 1 listed castle built on a rocky knoll close to the Irish Sea. England and Welsh princes had vied for control for North Wales since the 1070s, and the conflict renewed during the 13th century, leading to Edward I intervening in North Wales for the second time during his reign. Edward ordered the construction of the castle in Harlech, one of the seven castles built across North Wales in the wake of the 1282 campaign. In 1286, at the height of construction, the workforce comprised 546 general laborers, 115 quarriers, 30 blacksmiths, 22 carpenters, and 227 stonemasons. And the project was costing nearly £240 a month. The castle was essentially complete by the end of 1289, having costed an estimated of £8,190. Around 10% of the 80,000 that Edward spent building in Wales between 1277 and 1304. Harlech Castle would see to multiple wars. In 1294, Madog ap Lewin, I think, began an uprising against the English, and several English held towns were razed, and English held castles Harlech, Criccieth, and Aberystwyth Castle were besieged in the winter, but supplies from Ireland via water were sent, and the uprising was quashed. In the aftermath of the revolt, additional defenses were built around the route down to the sea. Following the Despencer War, Edward II was threatened in the region by the Mortimer Marcher Lord family, and he ordered his sheriff, Sir Gruffydd, to extend the defenses leading up to the gatehouse with additional towers. I'm sorry to any Welsh people watching this. I don't know how to pronounce these names. In 1400, a revolt broke out in North Wales against English rule led by Owen Glendower, and by 1403 Harlech and a handful of castles still stood against the rebels. But by the end of 1404 the castles would fall to Glendower and it would become his residence. But in February 1409 Harlech would fall into English hands, and in the 15th century Harlech would be involved in the Wars of the Roses. Uh, that broke out between the two rival factions, the House of Lancaster and the House of York. In 1460, following the Battle of Northampton, Queen Margaret of Anjou fled to the castle, and then between 1461 and 1468, it would be held by Lancastrian supporters. And as other fortresses fell, Harlech still stood. Harlech would be the base of operations for the Lancastrians. There were planned operations in 1464. Sir Richard Tunstall mounted attacks from Harlech in 1466, and Jasper Tudor landed there with French reinforcements in 1468, before then raiding the town of Denbigh. Tudor's arrival had caused Edward IV to order William Herbert to mobilize an army, possibly up to 10,000 strong, to finally seize the castle. And then, after a month's siege, the small garrison surrendered on 14th August. This siege is credited with inspiring the song "Men of Harlech." The English Civil War had broken out in 1642 between the royalist supporters of Charles I and the supporters of Parliament. Harlech apparently had not been repaired following the 1468 siege, and had become completely dilapidated, with the exception of the gatehouse, which was used for the local assizes. In 1644, Prince Rupert appointed a local royalist, Colonel William Owen, as the castle's constable, and Owen was entrusted with repairing the fortifications. A long siege ensued from June 1646 until 15 March 1647, when the garrison of 44 men surrendered to Major General Thomas Minton. The castle was the last mainland royal fortress to surrender in the war, and the date marked the end of the first phase of the war. The castle was no longer required for security of North Wales, and to prevent any further use by the Royalist Parliament, ordered its slighting or destruction. The orders were only partially carried out, however, the gatehouse staircases were destroyed and the castle rendered generally unusable. But it was not totally demolished. Stone from the castle was reused to build houses in the local town. In the late 18th and 19th century, the picturesque ruins of Harlech began to attract visits from prominent artists including John Cotman, Henry Gastineau, Paul Sandby, J.M.W. Turner, and John Varley. In 1914, it was transformed from the Merioneth Crown estate to the control of the Office Works, who commenced a major restoration project after the end of World War One. In 1969, the castle was transferred to the Welsh office and then to Cadell, who managed the property in the 21st century as a tourist attraction. Harlech was declared part of the castles and town walls of King Edward and Gwynedd World Heritage Site in 1986. UNESCO considering Harlech one of the finest examples of late 13th century and early 14th century military architecture in Europe. I'm not gonna get into the architecture of this thing because I don't know what any of this is or what it means. Yeah, that's that was Harlech Castle's historical involvement throughout the many wars on the British Isles, and yeah. Sorry for not pronouncing these Welsh names correctly. I don't know how to pronounce them, and given how small this piece of paper is, I couldn't exactly fit everything into yeah. But I think that's gonna be all for today, and thanks for watching if you're still watching, and goodbye.